Welcome back into the Academy. In our last lesson, we honored the Kuva Nukor, the undisputed sovereign of the secondary slot. Today, we're putting the sovereign to the test. We are looking at the Tenet Quanta. Is it just another shiny addition in the inventory, or is it a genuine tool capable of holding its own in steel path? We aren't here for meta-slop. We are here for the mechanical truth. Without further ado, let's open the engine. To keep this fair, the Kuva Nukor is our baseline. Any weapon fighting for an SS spot has to prove it can either match the Nukor's utility or provide a superior mechanical advantage. Today, we're looking at three distinct configurations and one level cap engine that pushes the limits of status math. And if you're curious to know what Progenator element that I'm going to choose for today for the Tenet Quanta, it is magnetic. Why? Because magnetic is simply one of the best elements that you can choose for your weapons, because it can combine with no other elements, and it doesn't mess up your builds. It is just an all-rounder, overall good choice to have. Alright, welcome back you legends. As you can see, we're in the simulacrum, and I'll be showcasing all three distinct builds using a naked Loki without any mods. And as you can see on screen, I have no mods at all. I have no companion to give me any kind of buffs whatsoever. And then for today's subject, we're going to spawn in the Gauss set officers. Why? Because they simulate how lower cap enemies would be in terms of health and armor. And have a look at the first build. And the first build that we have is a corrosive and heat setup. Now, I know a lot of you are probably wondering, what is a ribbon sets? I'll tell you, it's a very juicy ribbon. I'll give you that, it's juicy. It is absolutely amazing, but I'm gonna keep it real, and I'm gonna nerf myself deliberately to show you that you don't even need a ribbon. We're gonna replace the ribbon with electricity, because that's the main element. The crit chance and crit damage is just nice to have. It's not a must, it's nice to have. So, without further ado, we are using corrosive and heat. We're aiming for raw, efficient armor mitigation, and this build is designed for consistency. It's about stripping the target down to space components, so you can neutralize the threat before it can even reach your perimeter. Simple, effective, and clean. Without further ado, let me show you how it performs against these guys. They are level 235 steel path modifiers and everything. So you want to do is you want to shoot with your alt fire, and of course it won't do as much in the beginning, but as soon as you get those ticks off, and as you can see, we're slowly but steadily getting there. This is how it performs. Now, on its own merit, it's really not that bad, not too shabby. But again, since we have the governance aptitude and merciless and primary merciless and everything, we have to stack up our elements and buffs and everything. At the beginning, it will start off slow, yes, but you soon realize that it's made for DOT. There it died. Number 2 is a gas and electricity setup. So for this setup, it's a bit interesting, because why? It's not built for pure damage overall, it is built for DOTs. And if you want to watch the battlefield melt, this is your configuration. Gas and electricity are for those delicious DOT procs. This is for the min-maxers who want to see massive numbers ticking across the screen. It's all about density, filling a room with status so thick that even the most stubborn enemies lose their health pool. Without further ado, I'm gonna have my Quanta Vandal Ribbon equipped. Just imagine that this ribbon is electricity, nothing fancy. Here are the stats on screen, very delicious, and let's go and showcase how it performs. Now I'm just gonna respawn some of the enemies back, and I'm gonna reset my stuff so that I don't cheat, quote unquote cheat. Okay, and this is how it performs. On its own merit, it wouldn't seem as impressive, admittedly, but keep in mind that these enemies are how level cap enemies would be, or simulated, I would say. Now we're keeping it very fair, without any buffs, without anything else. And this is raw footage of how it performs. I don't want to be clickbaiting you guys into believing that this is the best weapon. Admittedly, yeah, it's not that great in terms of on its own. But as I've said earlier, if you have specific Warframe buffs and whatever the case might be, then of course it would perform way better. Build number 3. Now we move into the serious engineering part of the video, where we are using primary Debilitate. To create a status engine that scales infinitely, we are stacking Rife Elementalist and Galvanized Aptitude to ensure that every bullet carries a payload that the Steel Path can't ignore. This is the Statussy engine, designed for those who demand performance at level cap. So this is the build. As you can see on screen, this is a very interesting build. Now, you are probably, how the hell does this work? I will tell you right now. That I have made a video in the past talking about primary Debilitate. I will leave a link about it down in the description, where I basically describe how primary Debilitate works. So, for instance, if you want to do all-rounder builds, everything every day, I would suggest that you don't use Shivering Contagion. Shivering Contagion is just there to crowd control because it freezes enemies, you know. But if you want to do level cap, use Hunter Munitions. That is the better option. But for a general gameplay, you don't have to use it. And then if you're wondering how does this work, I will just give a brief summary. The brief summary, or the TDR, is that every combined element will basically be separated into other elements. So that is what primary Debilitate does. And if you're wondering why not crits or whatever, it's not needed because we have so much status that it's not needed at all. And if you're wondering what about, base damage, again, not needed because of Galvanized Aptitude. It says that status chance on kill gives 40 base damage or whatever the case might be. Now, if you really think about it, we have multiple elements. We have electricity, we have cold, we have toxin, we have heat. That's like almost 5 different elements. And then, of course, if you would have used anti-munitions, that would have been a 6th element, which is far superior than Serration. Okay? And if you would have used a primer, like the Epitaph Prime or a Companion, then it would scale even further and better. But let's show how it performs on its own merit. We're back in the simulacrum again. As I've said, what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the alt fire, prime them a little bit. Okay, now for the magic. You wanna aim for the head, ideally. And as you can see, like if you really look close at the screen, you can see all of those ticks, all of those little damages, all of those stuff. it gets insane. Now that's just one enemy kill. Okay, I wanted to look very closely how this performs. We are proccing we have killed 3 enemies so far. As you can see, this build is far superior than the others, and they are made for hybrid slash DOTs, but this is mostly and purely just DOT. And yes, we just froze enemies because of sharing contagion. Again, crowd control. Who doesn't love crowd control? The build on its own, how it performs on its own merits without any buffs whatsoever. Now keep in mind that with primary debilitate you can use other warframes to essentially boost the damage even further, where you can use someone like Gauss with his special augment mod. I forgot the name, I'll put it on screen, but basically what it does, it allows you to proc either blast. Okay, well, I have blast on this build, but you get the idea. If you use something like, I don't know, let's say Zara's Whisper, then it will essentially double proc because of blast. How proc and Zara's Whisper does, it essentially double dips, but since we have 5 elementalists, it triple dips. And since we have primary debilitate and how primary debilitate works, we can hypothetically quadruple dip. But if you want to take it even further with faction mods and war, you can dip much more. You can dip much more damage, I think up to 6 times or 5 times. Like, it gets crazy how primary debilitate works, and I will glaze this arcane a lot because it's that great. And then, as you can see on screen, I'm not going to show it, it's a secret. I have a 4th configuration, but it's a synergy, as I've said, but I'm going to keep that under wraps for now. If you want to truly see a deep dive mechanic behind my primary debilitate setup, as I've said earlier, go watch my dedicated breakdown on the exact systems. I explained exactly how I used it in a solo level cap disruption run, feeding the status engine with specific elements and pairings that the video prerequisites for the final performance of this weapon. This is like a little bit of improv, you could say. I didn't make this part of the script, but it's fine, we live and learn, whatever. So I'm in mod steel path, and I'm gonna use Gauss, and if you're curious to know what build I used or using, I'll also link a build of my Gauss in the description where I've made a deep dive about Gauss as a whole. Same with Grendel. Without further ado, let's have some fun. Since I'm using Blast from Thermal Sunder and whatever the thing's called, I'm proccing a bunch of stuff, and this is the primary debilitate setup, believe it or not. And we don't care, we are killing everything and anything in our sights whilst we are surviving without any complications. Overall, it's fun. It's honestly just all fun. I don't got complaints. But yeah, you let me know what do you think about the Tenet Quanta. I personally like it a lot. Very underrated. I know a lot of people have made videos about it just when it got released, but I wasn't that experienced at the time, so that's why I'm making the video now, but at least it's out. So I really do hope that you guys like the video, and leave a like and a sub. We're very close to 300 subscribers. I do hope that I can make YouTube a full-time job for myself, because I do like making these types of videos for everyone, where everyone can basically improve and just get stronger and better at the game. But yeah, as you guys can see, I have no issues whatsoever, as I've said. And it's just fun, honestly. I have no complaints. And I think my companion is priming them with viral, if I'm not mistaken. Very nice. So, is the Tenet Quanta and is there weapon 2? Well, that completely depends on your layout, as I've said multiple times throughout the video. But the math doesn't lie. Stop chasing the hype, master the mechanics, join the Discord, grab your blueprints, and let me know in the comments which weapon should the Academy audit next. And stay legendary. Peace.